Episode 156, Decoupling Job and Self-Worth.
You're listening to the very best podcast in the world on health, wealth, and happiness. Please remember to leave a review and share with all your friends and family. And here is your host, Lars Hilser.
And we are back for the 156th episode of the very best podcast in the world, your only source in the universe for personal supremacy through health, wealth, and happiness. Boom, there you have it. So I hope not everyone has disappeared for 6 months yet, in reference to Friday's exercise episode. If you do intend to disappear, make sure to stay subscribed to the podcast, of course. You know, where else are you going to get personal supremacy? So after this little bit of self-irony, let's get down to our, what's it called? Homework? No. Chores list? No. Housekeeping. There we go. Housekeeping. Sharing is caring. Yeah, it is in a way that if you listen to an episode here and, you know, may be interesting for you, but it may be way more interesting for a friend or a family member or your alcohol buddy or your nicotine buddy or, whatever buddies you have, make sure to share this episode with them. It'll help them. They'll be eternally grateful for your help through the podcast. And the advice given here may help, not only yourself, but, maybe someone else. So in that sense, make sure to share it. Also the upcoming episodes, because you are a loyal subscriber, right? And if you're not, go to the very best podcast in the world.com, hit the subscribe button, and then you will be subscribed. We've got all pretty much any outlet that serves podcasts is in there. If your favorite one is missing, write a very, very, very mad email to the very best podcast in the world at gmail.com. Now, housekeeping is done. Boy, that was fast. Now we're going to go into today's episode, which is about decoupling job and self-worth. Now, where do we begin? Well, for a lot of people, their job is inevitably and very complexly intertwined with their self-worth. Because for some of them, it's power over others. Think of cops, not the good ones. Think of people who need the responsibility in their life. Bankers, finance professionals, etc. They've got tons of responsibility over other people's money. And some of them don't take it as lightly as others, and those are the ones in focus. But anyhow, for each and every one of us, to a degree, we intertwine our job with our self-worth. And there's a reason, because obviously if the job doesn't give us any self-worth, right, any social attribution or whatever, we wouldn't be doing the job very long. But this doesn't go to say that, there's others out there who, that's like the basic level. Let's put it that way. That's like your job and your self-worth. And then you've got those that I talked about in the previous episodes about passion, which, for me is, that's why I do a job, because I'm passionate about it. I don't really care what other people think about it. It's like for whatever reason, you don't think that your garbage man that, digs through your crap and puts it in the big truck is, doesn't have a lot of worth, but he does, right? In his mind, he's responsible for cleaning up the shit of other people. And, that's all right. And, think of the fact if he went on strike. We had that in several countries where shit hit the fan almost literally because, garbage was piling up and wasn't being picked up, etc. And that leads to a significant mess. So every job has a certain self-worth. Now, there are those of us then who say, okay, I'm going to intertwine into this complex web the monetary aspect. So, it's like, you see how this big web is becoming ever more complex with more factors kind of being woven into it. And at the end of the day, while the same acknowledgement that is or what it all boils down to is bullshit. The only finite asset that you have is time. Right? So whether it's about your self-worth or whatever, the amount of work you put into your job, the amount of time you put into your job is missing at the end of your life. And so the one thing, I think a lot of people have to understand that the main part why you should decouple your job and your self-worth is there are many better ways to spend your time than at your job. And you can also draw self-worth from that. I've had many discussions with housewives, back in the day when the Anglo-capitalistic monster hadn't expanded to a degree where women were still able to stay at home. And I'm not talking that they had to. I'm talking that it was fucking important, to keep the house in order, to bring forth the values, your values into your children, into your offspring, rather than some, deranged teacher at some state-run school. Those were you communicated your values into that kid, not some, snowflake depiction of the world that some teacher got when they were abused or whatever. If I look back at those people who, those peers of mine in school who became teachers, I'm so fucking glad I don't have children. Seriously. Because if they are representative of all the other people that are out there, I would never want my kids to go there if I had any. So, thank God for that. But for getting back to the title, a majority feel rewarded by the job, to a degree where, in Japan, for instance, if you fall asleep on the job, it's considered to be cool because the perception is that you have worked so hard that you fell asleep at your place of work. Now, don't get me wrong. This would be my fucking dream place to work. I could sleep on the job and everybody would think I was cool. Seriously though, job and prestige don't go well hand in hand. They just don't. Job titles, for instance, are misleading. So are the roles. The manager in charge of 1,000 people. And in reality, you're, some kind of you manage a project. You're a project manager, and the project is so negligibly important that a monkey could do it. But at the end of the day, it's like, oh, you're a manager, and that's what people try to sell you. Anyhow, bottom line. I think the most important takeaway is that try to attach to your self-worth things that really matter. And getting back to the housewife, I think that is one of the most underrated jobs in the fucking universe. I'm doing parts of it myself and have been for the last couple of years. I went out of my career, out of my way, and then, said, okay, I'll try this, and it just kind of grew. And boy, is it fucking fun. The cooking bit, the being creative bit, the, not having anyone breathing up your ass bit, not that I was ever in that position, but if I were to imagine that I would have continued in the 9-to-5 hamster wheel, and then would have been in such fucking frustrating situations, for miserable pay. I don't know. This, being really independent, homemaker, really. At the end of the day, it's much more rewarding. You get self-worth by getting shit done. It's, I don't know, chopping wood. I repeatedly mentioned that example of a friend that hired someone to chop his wood and put it on a pallet so that, he didn't have to carry it into the house. And while he's paying the dude to chop the wood, he's at the gym training his muscles. It's like, I don't fucking get it. Where's the concept here? Anyhow, long story short, better things to attach to your self-worth and your job. At the end of the day, your job is making you money. You're not changing the world. You're a small cog in a big system. And if you're missing, there's backup, plenty of it, so how do you change the world, right? You change the world by helping others, going into volunteer work and changing the lives of others. We just watched this movie, American Sniper, how the guy went back, with his PTSD. And then, there was a very short reflection on how he talked to other veterans and helped them, get through their PTSD. Holy shit, that was amazing. And those jobs are not well paid, let's face it, but if you're doing that, you will immediately notice that it's much more rewarding, the volunteer work is, than going to your 9-to-5 gig. Because at the end of the day, that's not going to get you, that's not improving any lives, unless you're a nurse or something. But, let's face it, if you're doing your 9-to-5 in a cubicle, in an office somewhere, you're not changing anyone's life, really, if you're honest to yourself. So, changing lives is what it's about. And if, you have the opportunity in your family for one person to stay at home, do that. Your kids' upbringing will reward you eternally because, it has the positive side effect that you can actually see your kids grow up and not only do so on the weekends because, you come home late, they're already in bed. You leave early, they're still in bed. So the only time you see your kids are, 1.5 days on the weekend. And again, if one of you has a chance, influence that life, the life you gave. So in that sense, I hope I wasn't too destructive, but it got this, when I came up with the idea to produce this episode, I was like, okay, let's get a catchy title. And, it all went downhill from there. I was like, how can you? Anyhow, long story short, I hope it was helpful to some of you, and remember to share it with, somebody running in the hamster wheel and feeling that they're insanely important in their job that they have, and tell them to detach from that and get their self-worth elsewhere where they actually get a reward from it and not a monetary one. So in that sense, have a nice rest of your Monday. And if you've already had, if your Monday is over, have a good night. Leave your hands above the blanket. Sleep tight. Don't let the bed bugs bite. And we'll be back in touch tomorrow on Tuesday. When we're going to talk about something very interesting. I haven't really thought of a title yet. See you tomorrow. Peace out. Stay safe.